Okay, so to start, you're gonna need your scissors, a lighter, a stitch kit with a needle and thread, elastic, and then stretchy point shoe ribbon. And then obviously your point shoes. Okay, so first we're gonna start preparing our ribbon and elastic. First, we're gonna need to cut the elastic in 4 pieces. So now that I have my ribbon cut in 4 pieces and my elastic cut in 2 pieces, we're gonna burn the edges. So we're gonna take the top of each ribbon and we're gonna just fray the edges, burn the edges so that it doesn't fray. You don't necessarily have to fray these or burn these. You don't necessarily have to burn the edges on these. Next, you're gonna take your stitch kit, and inside your stitch kit, you should have a needle and thread, like this. We're gonna start by threading the needle. When we sew, so we're gonna take a big piece of thread. We're gonna cut it. Okay. You're gonna meet both edges of the thread together like this. So you want to fold the thread in half. You want to fold the thread in half and tie a knot at the end. What we don't want is to pull it all the way through and tie the knot at the end like this. You want to double it up. So pull it, meet both ends. And then tie a knot at the end. Now I've threaded my needle and I've tied a knot at the end like this. Okay, so to start sewing our point shoes, we're gonna start with the elastic. And so every point shoe has this little spine going up the bottom. We're gonna sew the elastic on either end of the spine. So if this ends right here, the elastic is then gonna start right after it. So we're just gonna take a little small piece, put it there. This is the inside. I just have a little bit. Okay. And we're gonna start sewing. So to sew, we're gonna come behind and put our first stitch from behind so that the knot is there. Pull through. Usually when I'm sewing my point shoes, I go behind. So since my knot is there, then I'm gonna go behind with the second stitch. And then I'm gonna pull through. Oops, I got knotted. And if it knots like this, you can just kind of pull it through. So that's one stitch. I'm gonna do the same thing with the next one. I'm gonna come in front of this stitch. In front of this stitch, pull it through, and then I'm gonna meet up with the first little stitch we made so that it creates a little line. Like this. Okay, I'm gonna do the same, and I'm gonna do a whole line from one end to the other. So this is how I did the 2 lines. I did 2 rows of stitching. You can really do it anyway. Doesn't matter what kind of stitching it is, as long as there's enough stitches that if we pull this, it's not going to come undone. You could do crisscross, you could do straight across a few times. Some people go down and then up with the stitch. It really doesn't matter as long as it's enough stitches to hold the elastic in place if the elastic is being pulled on. If it's a little bit sloppy, it's not a big deal. You really can't see this from on stage. So after the stitches are done, we're gonna do a little knot in the back. So how I usually do this, I flip it inside out. I'm gonna take the thread. I'm gonna go underneath one of these stitches, like this. Okay. I'm gonna pull it through. Then I'm gonna take this little loop, the 2 loops, and I'm gonna do 2, I'm gonna like kind of just basically do 2 knots. 1, 2, that was 3, but you can do 2. And then I'm gonna pull it through, pull, 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 keep pulling so that there's a knot. It's not a perfect knot because of this, but really we're not gonna see that, so it's not that big of a deal. Next, I've threaded another needle. We're gonna sew the other side of the elastic. So this is elastic. I'm gonna pull it over here. For this, you need to measure your ankle. You need to put the shoe on your foot and measure how big this should be without cutting off your circulation. It should be pulling it tight enough that if you go on demi-pointe, the shoe's not gonna slide off your foot, but it shouldn't be so tight that's cutting off your circulation. So I've already measured mine. This is about a good place for it. I am going to sew the other side just like I did before, right here. Same exact thing on the other side. Once you're done with that, you're going to go underneath another one of the threads. And we're going to tie a knot. Two little loops. 1, 2. Pull through. So this is how it's going to look on the back of your shoe with the elastic once you're done. Both of the elastics are on either side of the seam. There and there. And then each has 2 rows of stitching. The next thing we're going to do is the elastic. So the placement of the elastic is going to be different on every shoe. We want the elastic to be right on our arch of our foot. So the best way to measure it is to put the shoe on the dancer's foot, check where their arch is, and align it pretty close to where their arch is. On this particular shoe, the seam is right here. It actually works out so that it's right on the edge of the seam, like this. So I'm going to put it there. This is what the inside looks like. It's a little bit like that, yep. And I'm actually going to do it a little bit diagonally so that when the dancer starts tying their shoes and they pull it back, it doesn't have like a weird fold right there. So I'm just going to put it on a little bit of an angle. We're going to sew this exactly like we did the other. You're going to put the needle through the back, and you're going to do the same type of stitches you did on the other. This, you don't need as many stitches because you're not putting as much tension on the ribbon as you are the elastic. So this is how it looks at the end. I have one line of tight stitches, and it's a little bit of on an angle. For the ribbon, I only did one line of thread as opposed to two, like I did on the elastic, just because we put a little less tension on the ribbon. You're more than welcome to put another row, but I don't really think it's necessary. Okay, now we're on our final one. We're gonna take our last elastic and we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. This is the final look of how it should look in the end. Elastics here, ribbons here, and your shoes are sewn, yay.